This is the Daily Tech News CES briefing for Tuesday, January 8th, 2025. To give you a complete look at the news coming out of CES, we've been doing these shorter briefings each morning, followed by our regular DTNS discussions in DTNS Live later in the day. Today, we're going to hear from CES spokesperson Allison Fried on the biggest trends from the industry side of the show, and of course, your emails, all about what you think of this format this week. I'm Tom Merritt. Let's start with what you need to know with the big story. Last week, Apple agreed to pay $95 million to settle a lawsuit over the fact that some conversations captured by Siri were accidental and led to Apple employees hearing some sensitive topics that maybe people wouldn't have wanted to send to employees of Apple. That was the extent of the allegations. There was no allegation that Apple did anything with those conversations other than hear them when people would rather they didn't. Apple admitted no fault in the settlement. They just paid the $95 million to say, let's make this go away. That didn't stop some people from jumping to conclusions, of course, and a lot of people going, well, one time I mentioned Olive Garden and then I got ads for Olive Garden. I think they were selling this to advertisers. So Wednesday, Apple felt compelled to issue a statement that it did not sell your conversations to advertisers. The company said, and I'm going to quote here from the statement, Apple has never used Siri data to build marketing profiles, never made it available for advertising, and never sold it to anyone for any purpose. It also reminded folks that it, and I'll quote again, does not retain audio recordings of Siri interactions unless users explicitly opt in to help improve Siri, and even then, the recordings are used solely for that purpose, improving Siri. Users can easily opt out at any time. That's one of those technicality things that Apple usually isn't quite as strict on, but you get that pop-up. Would you like to give this to Siri? A lot of people probably just press OK because they usually press OK to get rid of a pop-up. So that's what they're talking about. You opted in if you pressed OK on that pop-up when you set up your phone. So why do you get an ad for Olive Garden moments after you mention Olive Garden out loud for the first time in years? Because I've had that happen too, where I'm like, whoa, I was just talking about that. The short version is there are plenty of other ways to predict what you're interested in without listening to you. That includes capturing your on-screen interactions with apps and websites, where you are, who else you're with. Sometimes if you can know where you are, you can know where other people are, and sometimes advertisers can triangulate all that data. Ads are constantly missing those guesses, okay? But you don't notice those. You might complain like, why am I getting this ad? But you kind of forget about that. You notice the times that they make a hit. Now, stopped clock is right twice a day, but with all of this information they know, they can be more accurate than a stopped clock. If you were to spend the day noting everything you said, you'd probably find close to 0% of what you say triggers an ad. If you spend the day noting what ads you get, you'll probably find that a small percentage, but not a big percentage, are related to anything you said out loud. And the reason it's going to be a bigger percentage there is because they know other things about you. And so what you talk about is also going to be based on the actions that you take. Ad targeting is just very good because advertisers get a lot of information about you. Also, in a less creepy bit of Apple news, 9to5Mac noticed some indications in iOS 18.3's Beta 2 code that Apple might be working on an Invites app for organizing parties and other events. So get ready to be Sherlocked, Partival, and Evite. DTNS is made possible by you, the listener, thanks to Mike Akins, Norm Physicus, Chris Allen, and a bunch of new patrons this week. Big thanks to Nicholas, Paul, that Brian guy, Eric, Aaron, Ian, Douglas, and Ryan. So good to have you in on CES week, getting all the best stuff. All right, there's more we need to know. Let's get to the briefs in just a second. Google has launched a new experiment in Search Labs called Daily Listen that creates a 5-minute audio show about stories and topics you're interested in. The show would appear in the carousel underneath the search bar at the top of the Google app on both Android and iOS if you turn it on. When you click, in a scrolling transcript appears where podcast art usually would. So this is very podcasty like. They're trying to make it feel like a 5-minute podcast about stories you would be interested in. The controls include play, pause, 10-second rewind, the next story, because they have chapter markers for all the stories, playback speed, and mute if you just want to read the transcript. Links to the stories that are discussed in the episode appear below the controls. It's basically the NotebookLM audio overview, but it's automatically created for you based on stories Google thinks you're interested in. So instead of you having to set it up, it's saying, well, these are the links we would show you, say, Google News, so let's just have NotebookLM discuss those. I'm often critical of what Google thinks I'm interested in, but it tends to work well for a lot of people. So this could be something that people start to rely on if it's good enough to make people feel informed and entertained. But it also has to be easy to use. Right now, very few people use Google's app to listen to things. So it's not going to get the uptake it might. But if Google were to make this easy to add to other apps, maybe do an RSS feed or integrate it into YouTube, seems like an easy one, or Spotify if they can strike a partnership, this could catch on. It also just might not be very good no matter what they do with it. I haven't tried it yet. So people got tired of those tropes from the NotebookLM hosts rather quickly when it first launched. Your mileage may vary on this one. Videoland is showing off its real-time captioning in the open-source VLC media player. It can not only show you what's being said, but also translate it, too. VLC plans to support more than 100 languages, so you can get automatic subtitles. Captioning and translation is also done locally, so none of this has to get sent to the cloud. Microsoft has a couple of events coming up. Xbox Developer Direct is coming on January 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern on Twitch and YouTube. The teaser includes an unannounced brand new game. Last year, that game was Bethesda's Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And on LinkedIn, Microsoft is teasing a major announcement from Surface for Business during its AI tour in New York City. That's coming up on January 30th. Best bet on that is at least Lunar Lake-powered upgrades to those Surface devices. Instagram and Threads are changing how they display political content from accounts you don't follow, like algorithmically recommended stuff. Right now, you can have it on or off. You can say either show me recommended political content or not, and it's defaulted to off. You have to go and turn it on if you want it. Well, starting in the US this week, that changes to 3 settings. The 3 settings are less, standard, or more, with standard as the default. So you may have noticed there is no option to turn it off altogether. You are going to get unsolicited political posts that Instagram or Threads think you are interested in, and you'll have to ratchet it down to less if you don't want to see a lot of them. Politics was the only category you could ask the algorithm not to show you. And in 2023, Instagram head Adam Mosseri said that pursuing political content on the platform was, and I'll quote, not at all worth the scrutiny, negativity, let's be honest, or integrity risks that come along with them. So explaining his turnabout today, Mosseri wrote on Wednesday that it had, quote, proven impractical to draw a red line around what is and is not political content. In other words, it's hard to please everybody with your categorization of what is and isn't political. Plus, he also said people want it. He said a lot of people like this and went and turned it on. It's also, in my opinion, a recognition of the fact that X continues to be the place for breaking news, and Threads will never have a hope of taking that away if it's not treating political content the way it treats other content. But prepare for a raft of new users, Blue Sky. Microsoft posted its small language model, SLM, that's kind of a trend these days, Phi-4, Phi-4 on Hugging Face. It posted Phi 3.5 on Hugging Face as well. You can download it and use it for free. Phi-4 is comparable to Meta's Llama 3.370B, China's DeepSeek V3, OpenAI's GPT-4o Mini. Microsoft is going to point out that their metrics show that it's better than Llama and GPT-4o Mini. And it also outperforms larger models like Gemini 1.5 Pro and GPT-4o in math competition questions. So if you're looking for a good math model, this might be one to mess around with. Electric vehicles are about to get cheaper in Europe. Renault Dacia announced it is cutting the price of its low-cost EV Spring model by 2,000 euros, so it's going to end up being around 17,500. China's Leapmotor just cut its TO3 in Europe to around 15,000 euros. India's Tata Consultancy Services, or TCS, missed analyst estimates as overseas clients are still slow to increase spending on IT projects. TCS leads India's software services sector, so it's a good bellwether on clients like Apple and Bank of America, who are TCS clients, spending money on projects. However, the company says it expects this year to be better than last. It also noted that it's not expecting any major disturbance to its business due to potential changes in H-1B rules in the United States. The Verge has an interesting article about OMI, O-M-I. It's an $89 wearable. If you've heard us talk about Friend or Limitless, it's like that. It's an always listening device that you wear. OMI has a 3-day battery life, and the idea is that it can help you find information about things you've said in meetings. Also, proactively, in OMI's case, deliver information based on what it knows about you. One example in the Verge article that the founder gave was it said it was sick, and OMI started reminding him to rest. Maybe a little naggy for some, but he seemed to appreciate the concern. But the more interesting part of the article for me is when David Pierce describes the founder, Niv Shevchenko, using a version of OMI taped to his left temple. He was demonstrating a one-channel brain-computer interface, so it's just one electrode. So it's not going to be able to read your thoughts, but it can analyze your brain waves to try to guess whether you are talking to it or someone else, because your brainwaves are a little different when you're talking to an actual person versus talking to yourself. And if you can make that work really well, it would eliminate the need for wake words. Samsung's showing off a version of its Frame Pro TV at CES. That's the one that looks like a wall-mounted piece of art, and you can display pictures of art on it when you're not using it as a TV. The latest version includes a wireless One Connect box. That's probably a big advantage for this. It means you can put the frame anywhere within 10 meters of the box, and you won't have to try to hide cords. It replaces the One Connect box, which previously required one wire, but it was still a wire. There's no price or release date on this new version, though. And finally, when a company shows off a silly hat at CES, we must acknowledge it. EcoFlow showed off the solar hat with solar panels embedded on the brim. On the underside of the brim is a little rubber tab, and if you pull that back, you can find a USB-A and USB-C port and wire up 2 devices for charging. The hat needs to be connected to the device to provide a charge. The hat does not carry a battery in it. You could probably wire one up yourself. Put an anchor in there or something. It'd be a little heavy. And it only outputs a maximum of 5 volts, 2.4 amps. So it's good for keeping you topped up, but it's not going to recharge stuff from the dead. It is, however, on sale now. This is a shipping CES announcement. You can buy it for $129. Those are the essentials for today. Let's dive a little deeper in the ongoing stories and follow up. The Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas is put on by a nonprofit trade group called the Consumer Technology Association, the CTA. If you ever hear me talk about CTA, that's who puts on CES. And I'm always grateful for all the help they give a small operation like ours, giving us access to the floor, space to record, really nice window where you can see the floor. One of the highlights every year is getting to sit down with somebody from the CTA to talk about the trends from their side of the show, right? We're seeing the reporter side, the consumer side. So it's nice to find out from the side of the people putting on the show what they think is important. And this year, once again, I got to talk to the absolutely delightful CES spokesperson, Allison Fried. Allison, thanks for joining us.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I love talking to you guys.
Oh, it's good to have you back. And good to be back.
Really good to have you here.
Yeah,
Thank
you guys
you.
meet for the first time, right?
It's the first time we've met.
Amazing. I know. I'm honored.
We've
Thank
become
you.
long friends
In our setup time.
So.
That is true. That is true. So let's start with the top line. What are the largest increases in interest in exhibitors in the industry sector? I mean, I think it's an obvious answer.
I think we can all agree it's AI. It's AI. And we've been saying AI for a while. And, it's just growing and growing. And now we've got 2.5 million net square feet of space. And it's very hard to think that we've even got a teeny tiny fraction of that doesn't have AI incorporated in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. You can't walk very far without seeing a lot of things. AI being one of them, large TVs,
right.
Robotics, all of that stuff.
Right.
But what are some of the sectors that are growing big that people wouldn't expect or maybe haven't thought of as being big parts of this?
Yeah, I think on that I would probably have to say digital health and wellness. huge area. Each year it's been growing, it's been expanding bigger and bigger. And this year we actually had to move it out of the Las Vegas Convention Center and give it its entirely own hall over at the Venetian, just because it's gotten so big. And that really plays into the longevity story that we're seeing at the show floor and in the industry as a whole, as we have our aging population, not only in America, but globally. Inventors and innovators are trying to come up with creative ways to keep people living healthier, longer, more productive and happy lives.
So it's not just me because I'm getting old.
We're all getting old, my friend.
It's actually a trend.
It is a trend. It is a trend.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've actually heard several people say is that accessibility seems to be a focus this year.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the Consumer Technology Association, which is the trade group that puts on CES, actually has a foundation, the Consumer Technology Association Foundation, that is dedicated to funding projects all for technology towards the aging population and those requiring accessibility needs. And so we've got an entire area, again, over at the Venetian dedicated to all products that are helping people who are with vision trouble, hearing trouble, intellectual impairments, physical disabilities. It's really, really incredible to see where things have come. And back to AI being incorporated into a lot of these products. We were talking off air. I actually very, very magically was contacted by my 5th grade teacher who was here with her brother who has Down syndrome, and he has now become completely blind because of it. And, he uses a walking stick, and then literally the next day I saw a walking stick that uses AI to not only help navigate the person around, let them know where they're going, but also is talking to them on their journey about what is around them. Because when I was talking to Johnny, one of the big things he misses is he misses being able to know where he is in space, right? Mm-hmm. It's one thing to navigate, I need to go to A to B, but he misses knowing what's fully around him. That there's a pine tree on my left and that there's a cafe on my right. And I just thought it was really cool to be able to use technology to kind of bring back that sense of being that's gone for him and so many others.
And what a coincidence.
Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. I was on such a high. I was like, Miss Branchini, oh my gosh. I was like, cancel my schedule. I ran over there.
Amazing.
It's one of those things, your worlds are colliding. And that is one of the magical things about CES that Gary Shapiro always talks about, the serendipity of the show.
Right.
It's so huge, but you never know who you're going to run into. And the fact that my 5th grade teacher was there with her brother, who I've known since I was 10.
Oh, wow.
And they'd actually been invited by the CTA Foundation to come, and it was a whole panel on seeing accessible tech. And Marie Branchini, she actually got very teary-eyed when I was talking to her, and she was like, we didn't know half this stuff existed or was available. And she was like, everything we saw here today, and it was a 3-hour session, not only would make a significant difference in Johnny's life, but also in my life as his caregiver, because that's a very big undertaking.
Yeah, people forget that part of it
yeah,
too,
exactly. So, technology all across the board.
Yeah, we covered a device on DTNS, Rob, that you were pretty excited about as well.
Yeah, Lily for Life, a company based out of France. They create a lamp that has a flicker with a refresh rate that they can set it for people with dyslexia like myself. Oh. So in real time, I have the type of dyslexia that works exactly how this lamp works. And it was interesting. Tom and Amos are watching. I actually got a little emotional. It's like, wow, where was this when I was in 2nd grade? Because it actually allowed me to read with significantly less or more ease than what I normally do. For me, reading I have to concentrate to stay on the line that I'm reading. But this light allows me to actually do that without the strain that I normally use.
My 4th grader is dyslexic, and we are really, really trying to find ways to make things easier for her. So I feel like we need to talk about this. Like, that's amazing. It's just a challenge.
It was instantaneous.
Really?
I mean,
oh
it literally
gosh.
seconds to tune it in to get it to work.
No, it was impressive. It was impressive just watching. Yeah.
Okay, that's like giving me goosebumps. That's amazing. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. See, yes, there's something for everyone.
Yeah,
it really is.
Wow.
And there's so much. That's the
There's
other thing.
so
Like, it's hard to know just how much there is here. We were talking about one that I saw yesterday called BioLeg. That was an Innovations Award winner, where the founder had actually created the company and created a machine learning based leg that does more muscular attention because he needed it himself. right? He was dissatisfied. So there's so many examples of that.
Amazing.
If people out there are hearing this and saying like, how do I find these things? How do I find these companies? Obviously, there's, do a search, listen to our show and all of that.
Come right here. We've got it all.
Yeah, but what do you tell people?
How do I find these things? So, I mean, I would say I love the story that you were talking about with the BioLeg where someone came in to solve their problem. And Gary Shapiro says this all the time, anyone with an idea should come to CES because this is the place to be. This is the place to showcase it. This is the place to meet partners to bring those ideas into reality. So I would just say that first and foremost, like get involved with the show, get involved with the Consumer Technology Association, because I think a lot of people don't realize that there is a nonprofit trade association behind this show with 2,000 plus member companies that's dedicated to helping these innovators succeed and find environments where we can bring the next iteration of these products. So I would say that. And then, just from a networking and meeting people perspective, you don't know what you don't know. And so I think that human piece and finding out and talking, now I know we need to have a dyslexia light. I think getting involved, taking advantage of these big gatherings is one of the best ways in the world to stay on top of this.
What is the best way for people to learn about that aspect of CES and the CTA? Where should they go?
Yeah, so CES.tech is where you can find everything about the show. We've got all the conference sessions streaming, but then CTA.tech is where you see the association side, and there's working groups for all kinds of different product categories, brainstorming sessions, panels. It's a fantastic organization to be involved with.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing people forget is CES in Las Vegas is only 4 days, but there are lots of events related to CES and the CTA all year long.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. And I guess I should note that CTA is right outside Washington, D.C. So we're based in Arlington, Virginia. So there's a big policy component where we're, working the Hill to make sure that there's pro-innovation legislation, pro-business stuff. So, but yeah, we've got events all around the globe. Europe, Asia, America, all over these target cities, all over.
So CES.tech for CES, CTA.tech for the association.
Exactly.
And big thanks to you, Allison. Thanks
Oh my
for talking
gosh,
to us
thank
today.
you. This was delightful.
Yeah.
You guys are fabulous.
Thanks for coming by.
Did you know that DTNS also has a live show? You probably do, since most of you have also been getting that in your feed this week. If you were interested in getting just a feed of just DTNS live show audio, look for DTNS Live in your podcaster of choice. You can become a patron at patreon.com/DTNS and get it that way. Or just head to dailytechnewsshow.com/subscribe and we'll break down all the options for you. We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Today, Craig, David, and Kevin all represent different aspects of the audience weighing in on the new format of our CES coverage this week. Craig says, "Love that I can get more than just the headlines beyond Daily Tech headlines for a nice formatted amount of time and then have a longer discussion format within the normal show. This was just amazing." David says, "This new format you all are giving to the ad-supported listeners sucks. It's too long and is not enjoyable." Well, David, use this format instead of the other format then, because that's why this one's here. And Kevin says, "I just wanted to share how much I've enjoyed the way the crew approached covering CES this year. Separating the briefings from the main show has been fantastic. In the past, squeezing everything into a single episode often made it feel rushed, like the Micro Machines guy trying to speed through to fit everything in. This new format has been such a great change. It gives both segments room to breathe and allows for more thoughtful discussion. Honestly, I wouldn't mind at all if this became the standard approach for DTNS/GDI in the future." Well, good news, Kevin. Starting Monday, if you're on the ad-supported DTNS feed, the briefing is what you're going to get. You can go get DTNS Live in a separate feed, or like I said, if you're a patron, you're going to get them all. So we're just going to keep doing this, starting with me and Jason Howell doing the briefing. It won't be just me doing the briefing starting next week, so look forward to that. Big thanks to Allison Fried for contributing today's show. Thanks to Craig, David, and Kevin for the emails. Thank you for being along for the Daily Tech News Show. The show is made possible by our patrons at patreon.com/DTNS. Don't forget, DTNS has a live version called DTNS Live. You can watch that live on YouTube and Twitch at 4 p.m. Eastern. Find out the details at dailytechnewsshow.com. Talk to you tomorrow.
DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.